Hello, and welcome to Hot Oven Time Machine, the podcast where we dive into the history of baking and try out recipes past and present. My name is Joseph, a master amateur baker.
And I'm Monty, a master baker in training.
I want to get something off my chest right away.
Oh.
We recorded this earlier, and the laptop overheated and didn't record any of it.
We recorded 1 minute and 22 seconds.
And then that's when my laptop decided, no, we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah, so I guess quick recap, we talked about, we found out nuts grow on trees. Certain kind of nuts.
I don't know, but we can still... Shh, don't give away too many secrets. We can still pretend like it's the first time.
That's true.
But if I hope we can make this still sound as good. Here's the thing. It sounded so great. We had a flow going. It was going to be such a good recording until we stopped and saw it wasn't recording anymore.
Which was at the end.
So we're going to try our best to keep this like fresh, high energy.
Yeah.
I'll try not to redo too many of my jokes. Try to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah. There were some good bits. I don't know if it's going to be like recurring bits that you did earlier, but I'm sure they're still going to crack me up.
I hope so.
I don't know why. It cracked me up.
But beyond that, how are you today? Other than having to record this episode again.
Well, since I didn't finish college in real life, I decided to finish it in Sims. So I got the university expansion pack.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Because in the Sims world, it's not real work. You know,
no.
They just go, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what they say.
Yeah.
Was that close?
Vaguely.
All right, cool.
How are you today?
I'm all right, other than, again, having to record this second try. I'm looking over at the monitor where it's recording. It's still going. All right, cool. We're recording this before launch, so it's a gray, boring day, December 4th. It's cold and rainy and just kind of literally been gray outside all day.
Yeah, I would have much rather been in bed all day.
But, we got up and we trudged ahead so that our dedicated fans would have an excellent episode.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to try to provide. Today, in our final episode of the first introductory trifecta that was the Holy Trinity of Baking, today we're going to talk about the history of pie.
Yes. I love pie. We should Google it over there.
The number pi is a mathematical constant. It is defined as the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, and it also has various equivalent definitions.
Hey, wrong pie.
Oh, were we not talking about mathematical pi?
No, we're talking about food pie.
But I had all of this great research about pi, the mathematical constant.
Oh, well, podcast over. That's the end of the episode. Bye, guys.
Like, did you know, I'm definitely not scrolling Wikipedia for the first time, definitely did hard research on this.
Yeah, and I totally didn't want you type anything onto Google. Quick, pie fact.
It's an irrational number and cannot be expressed as a common fraction.
So, irrational number. Does that mean people are just really scared of it?
I don't know.
I don't know what math is. You know this. I can't do math.
I believe, I'm trying to look for it here. Archimedes created the algorithm to approximate pi with arbitrary accuracy.
I'm already asleep.
Alright, enough with this bit. Pi.
I hate math.
Wouldn't you know it, pi has been around for a really long time too. The earliest version of pi can be traced back to ancient Egypt, with further evolutions of the pie being found in Greece and then later in Italy. These early versions of pie were sometimes made in inedible reed containers with no crust. It was all about the filling, which more often than not contained fowl or other meats, like cookies, which started out ancient times as biscuits. It was all about just sustenance and not really food pleasure.
Yeah.
The containers were, just a way to transport the pie filling the quote-unquote crust in ancient pies were really more of a bowl made from food that wasn't really meant to be eaten.
So the crust didn't get eaten?
Yeah, and a lot of early ancient pies, it was more just like a container.
Just meat in a bowl?
Yeah, it was like the first biodegradable container.
Oh, okay.
Like, you eat parts of it because, like, the inside of a meat pie is almost like a stew or a soup, so it would soften some of it up and could be somewhat edible, but it wasn't really, you didn't really eat the whole crust.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that confused me a bit, but I think I get it now.
Okay, cool. The first pie recipe, as we might recognize it today, comes from the Roman Empire area, a goat cheese and honey with rye crust pie, which sounds
amazing, actually.
delicious. We should maybe do that for an episode at some point.
Yes, that would be extremely fun.
Ancient pies. That would be an interesting episode to do, I think.
Yeah. What if we just did... No, this is too extra. A lot of mini pies that are old. But I was like, no. Don't put too many goods into one episode.
Gotta spread that content out, baby.
Yeah, we don't want to run out of content.
Exactly.
Oh, there's a lot of food.
There is a lot of food. Fruit pies became more popular during the 16th century. English tradition credits making the first cherry pie, dedicated to Queen Elizabeth I. Pie's next evolution would happen when Europeans began settling in North America in the 17th century. Colonists began using fruits and berries native to North America, as well as using round and shallow pie dishes to help stretch the ingredients. I won't go into too much detail here, but essentially, since we talked about pie and math earlier, mathematically, you can store more in a circular container than you can in a square container.
Yeah, I thought it'd just be the same.
Depending on relative sizes, but you're able to have more pie filling to crust ratio, or you don't have to make as much crust in a circular dish as you would. Because in the corners of a square dish, you're going to have, like, more crust.
Yeah.
So you'd have to use more material goods, which in early colonial America, you would have a short supply of. So you'd want to try to stretch those materials as much as you could.
Okay, that makes sense.
During the American Revolution, pie crusts began to shift towards being an edible part of the pie and not merely a storage solution to hold pie filling. During the 18th century, pies became a staple part of the American meal, and regional pies began to develop as Americans began to spread out across the continent. To quote the American Pie Council, "Over the years, the pie has evolved to become what is today the most traditional American dessert. Pie has become so much a part of American culture throughout the years that we now commonly use the term as American as apple pie."
Yeah, apple pie is just generally very American. I always think of 4th of July with apple pie, and not because it rhymes.
America. That is the general history and background of the pie.
All pie.
Today's specific pie, the recipe that we decided to go with, was the pecan pie.
Or pecan.
Pecan.
I say pecan, though.
I'm a big fan of pecan.
Yeah, I know.
Pecan pie. Pecan is a nut found in the southern United States. The word pecan is from the Algonquin word pecani, which translates roughly to several nuts.
It is like a cluster.
Yeah, it's like a cluster of nut product.
Yeah.
Before researching this, I had no idea that pecans were native to the southern U.S., having lived here for the majority of my life, and I'm sure people living in other regions might get this. It's hard to tell what's like a national versus a regional.
Yeah, because I know pecan pies are really popular
I'm
the
sure.
South.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell if I went to Colorado or Oregon or something, like, would they still be as crazy about pecan pie as we are down here?
Yeah.
Just hard to tell sometimes. It's hard to figure out the Southern culture versus the more all-American culture.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when, for most of your living memory, you've lived in the South and just don't know. But yes, pecan is native to the southern U.S., so there you go.
Well, that's cool.
Archaeological evidence from Texas shows that Native Americans have been using pecans as far back as 8,000 years ago. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I mean, you kind of know it because I told you earlier.
I mean, yeah. But while you were saying it, I was also thinking, is there a process of making sure you can eat the pecans like there is for almonds? Because if you don't do something with them specifically before you eat them, you can get cyanide poisoning.
Oh.
I believe it's with almonds.
I wonder if you have to cook them to a certain degree, or roast them.
Yeah, I don't remember particularly what you have to do, but I know you have to do something with them. So you can't just like go out in the wild.
Oh, good to know. So
and eat almonds.
If you find a wild almond tree, I assume they grow on trees since pecans grow on trees.
Yeah, as we found out earlier.
So be careful out there with those wild almonds and potentially wild pecans. We don't know.
Maybe all nuts.
I mean, especially if you have a nut allergy. Just really be careful out there.
Yeah, for sure. But I know you can eat pecans from trees. Because
you saw Dad do it.
Yeah.
And he didn't die, so...
And he said, here, have a pecan. I said, okay. And they really didn't taste like anything.
Wonder if the roasting, like coffee beans are roasted, and that affects the flavor.
Perhaps. Or maybe my memory is just completely skewed, and I didn't enjoy it because I wasn't a fan of pecans back then anyway.
That is true, because you and I have both evolved on our standing on pecans. I used to hate them. But now I love them. Well, maybe love's a bit far. I enjoy them.
Yes, I very much enjoy them, especially when it's like a little surprise crunch in something. Love it. Where were we?
Oh, the history of the pecan. Pecan.
Oh, yeah.
Having a hard time sticking to my pecan.
We were talking about they were like regional to Texas.
They were found in Texas.
Found in Texas. Okay.
8,000-year-old ones.
That's old.
Yeah. The pecan pie is believed to be a variation of the chess pie, which is made of a similar butter, sugar, egg custard. Some have stated that the French invented the pecan pie soon after settling in New Orleans, after being introduced to the pecan nut by the Native American, and I'm going to preemptively apologize on my pronunciations here, Quinnipiac. I'm going to go with Quinnipiac.
Yeah.
And Tangipahoa tribes. Tribes native to the New Orleans region.
Yes. There you go.
Claims have also been made that the pecan pie existed in the early 1800s in Alabama. I'm sticking to that joke.
You know,
AKA Alabama.
It took me a solid 30 seconds last time to figure out what that was.
I just really love to say Alabama because it just really...
Alabama.
Just seems fun.
It is kind of fun.
Note, I lived in Alabama for roughly 18 years, so I don't mean it purely out of spite or anything. It's just fun to say Alabama. 18
years? I thought it was at least 22.
No, we moved there I think literally in 2001, and then I moved away in 2018.
Yeah, that's right. I was 1 when we moved there, so never mind. You weren't 1.
So how do you even know? Yeah, I was 8. I remember some things.
Well, good.
This is all speculation as to where and when the pecan pie first existed. The earliest recipe that we can find for it dates back to Harper's Bazaar in 1886. It also started to become more widespread in cookbooks in the 1940s, such as Fanny Farmer and the Joy of Cooking. The makers of Caro syrup, Caro syrup significantly contributed to the popularizing of the dish and many of its recipe variants. The company has claimed that the dish was a 1930s, quote, discovery for a new use for corn syrup by a corporate sales executive's wife. Pecan pie was made before the invention of corn syrup, and older recipes used darker sugar-based syrup or molasses. So, just what all companies do when they try to mass produce and market something, and they just pretend that they invented it.
Yeah, capitalism.
Yay. The 1929 Congressional Club Notebook has a recipe for the pie, which used only eggs, milk, sugar, and pecan, no corn syrup. The pecan pie came to be closely associated with the culture of the southern United States in the 1940s and 50s and has stuck with us to this very day.
Could you argue that pecan pie is a custard?
I mean,
I suppose the original.
yeah, the original. I think the modern variation that most people cook is maybe not quite a traditional custard.
Yeah, especially if you don't use milk. It's not really a custard if you don't use milk and eggs.
True. So speaking of the modern recipe, why don't you give us a quick little overview of it?
Alright, so I just found a very simple one online. You can get just as easy of a recipe from the back of a Caro corn syrup bottle. Pretty much all bottles have them since corn syrup is just associated with pecan pie. So you can use light or dark corn syrup. We're more fans of darker sugars, whether that's like just brown sugar or...
Yeah, they just seem to have a fuller flavor to them, or just a more intense...
Yeah.
I mean, not intense like, jalapeno hot intense or anything.
Yeah, or just licking straight molasses.
Yeah, like it's just, there's just more there.
Yeah. Let's see. Eggs, sugar, butter, vanilla extract, and obviously pecans. I hated that. Pecans. It's pecans. And then you can use regular pie crust. I did like a different pie crust that basically just has the pecans in it. So that was fun.
So full disclosure, we recorded this just shortly after Thanksgiving, but
A week after.
we made this pie for Thanksgiving and then ate the majority of it at Thanksgiving and then put off recording this and our last slice spoiled, which I feel tragically about letting a slice of such good pie go to waste.
I know, it was so good.
But unfortunately today we will not be having a live taste testing, and to which we apologize. We've only made it 3 episodes in and we've already broken our own format. But we will endeavor to do better.
You don't have to listen to mouth sounds today.
I mean, I try to edit and limit the mouth sounds.
That's true.
But we apologize today. We will do our best to still let you know what we thought of the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was a week ago. Still remember it was quite delicious.
Yeah.
I guess first, before we get into the tasting, did you run into any trouble in the baking process this time around?
Yes. I don't know if it was using the dark corn syrup or oven rack being too tall or too high in the oven. It browned fairly quickly, so I had to place aluminum foil, tin foil. I guess it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's like same difference.
I don't know. I had
Technically, it's aluminium foil.
Well,
I figured since we're going with so many alternative,
as the Brits say,
pronunciations of pecan.
Bit sad, isn't it? Yeah, I had to put tinfoil on it, and it browning too much on the top too quickly caramelized it, and when we tried cutting near the crust, it was basically impossible.
It took us a hot minute to dislodge the crust from the
pan.
But otherwise, it was pretty delicious.
Mm-hmm.
It was very rich. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, the caramelization was a little rough on the outside and the crust on the outside, but, for the filling itself, that caramelization was pretty nice.
Yeah. I got the sad sort of caramelization on the outside. But it was still good. And if you can recall from last week, what would your rating be?
Well, I would have to give it a 7.5. I did like the crust. It was a bit crumbly.
Mm-hmm.
And, pie crusts are, can be on the crumblier side, which I'm fine with. But some of the slices, when we were trying to get them out of the pan, were just
falling apart.
Yeah. Like, it was a bit crumbly.
Yeah, also my fault. I did cook the crust before adding the filling, because that's what the recipe said to do, but this crust is from a different recipe that you just bake the crust and then refrigerate every other layer that you put on. Yeah. It's like a chocolate delight recipe that our aunt always brought to Thanksgiving meals. I just took that crust.
It was a good crust, but now we know for next time, just bake it all at once. Because there are some pie crusts where you're supposed to pre-bake the pie crust.
Like pumpkin.
Yeah, pumpkin.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, yeah, it was still a really good pie. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's really hard to screw up pie. It's really hard to go
Yeah.
wrong with pie, but just the crust really failed it in its structural integrity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's where I stand today on that instance of it. You know, I've had it once before where you made it. It was definitely like a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
So it can reach that potential, but just this time it was sadly a 7.5 for me.
Yeah, and that was like my second time making a pie. Not to like brag or anything, but yeah, I'd have to give it a 7.5 as well. There's definitely room for improvement.
But I mean, that's baking.
Yeah.
Some days you win, some days you don't necessarily lose, but it just doesn't quite turn out
I mean,
right.
you can
I mean,
absolutely
if
lose.
you burned the absolute crap out of something, then I guess yes.
Yeah.
But usually
You can manage it, you
you can
know?
manage it. You can usually catch it before it burns to a crisp.
Yeah.
But that's where we are today, and that's how it turned out. Again, I hope this episode turned out all right. We tried our best to re-engage our enthusiasm and try to reuse all of our jokes, but try to
Yeah.
make this as good as the first time we said it aloud, but it didn't record.
Yeah.
You win some, you lose some, even when recording.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you really enjoyed the episode and want to give us your financial support, we would greatly appreciate it. You can go to patreon.com/hotoventimemachine. We're an independent podcast. We're just two people who like to bake and talk about it and talk about history and just enjoy it. And if you enjoyed it enough to just help us cover the cost of like hosting the website and covering cost of food material, just whatever you're willing to throw our way, we would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. Every little bit counts.
We have 3 tier levels. Our entry tier level, $5 a month. You can have early access to the episodes. Our next tier level up includes the benefits of the first tier, but also we'll shout you out at the end of an episode. Thank you for your contributions. $10 a month. We'll let everyone know who's listening that you appreciated us more than they did, and we get to say your name. And if they want to hear their name, then they should pay us more.
Ooh.
Too mean? Was it a bit harsh?
Definitely passive aggressive.
The third level, if you totally love what we're doing, for $15 a month, you can get all of the benefits of the previous 2 tiers, and we'll do a monthly AMA. Just shoot us your questions, we'll answer it, we'll have ourselves a good old time.
Yeah. Just don't make the questions like too weird.
I mean, you can ask weird questions. Now, whether we'll answer them or not is
Up to us.
up to us. But fire away.
Hopefully
Be
it's-
careful.
Yeah, hopefully it's just like about baking.
Yeah, about baking or
About us.
about us, what my favorite artist is, or favorite movies,
Nobody
or just
cares about
whatever.
that.
Like, just, huh? So nobody cares about that?
Yeah, but I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm
well.
giving you a hard time.
Ask us whatever you want, because you're going to pay $15 a month, and you can ask us whatever you feel like. But again, if it's too weird, we may not answer it.
Yeah.
Made that a little bit more rambly than we meant to, so I'm going to cut it off there. We really appreciate your support if you're able to do so financially. If not, just if you know other people who enjoy listening to two siblings talk about baking, just spread the word about our lovely podcast.
Yeah, that would be really greatly appreciated.
We appreciate you listening. Now that we're done with our little introductory mini-series, should we tease them with what we're doing next week?
Yeah. Sexy little tease.
Oh yeah, just a little tease.
Yeah.
Are we talking about candy? All right, well thanks. See you next week. Goodbye.
Yeah, take care.
Have a good day or night or whatever. Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Kermit the Frog here.
Oh, thank God. It didn't crash.
I was trying to think of like some little British phrase I could do other than bit sad, isn't it? Wait.
Come up with